Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Ignorant Intellectual on Media. Today, I thought we'd take a break from all the thrift store and mixed hauls that I do and talk about actual collecting, um, media collecting, movie collecting, and the dilemma that I'm having. All right, um, so I have three TVs in my house. I have one in my bedroom upstairs. I have one in the living room upstairs, and then I have one down here in my Danner lever, right in the basement. Okay, so and each is hooked up to a Blu-ray player. Well, the one in the bedroom is hooked up to a Blu-ray player. The one in the living room, I don't have a Blu-ray player. It's a PS5, so it can play 4Ks and Blu-rays and DVDs or whatever, right? So the one upstairs in the bedroom can play Blu-rays. It can't play 4Ks, right? Then I have the one in the basement, which is my universal player. It's a 4K player, but it's region-free. You can play movies from whatever region you want, right? Um, but none of them are a 4K television. All right, so two of the players, well, the PS5 and the player that I have in the basement here, can play 4Ks. All right, so I've never been a big 4K collector, but if you've collected media for a long time, you know that they're always upgrading it, right? So you started out with VHS, and then like the Criterion Collection and other studios or whatever started putting out laser discs, which were much better than VHS or Beta, right? And then the advent of the DVD came about, and then that revolutionized everything. Everybody started getting rid of their VHS and started collecting DVDs because it was so much clearer on your TV. And flat screen TVs started to come about and become more popular. Plasma, especially, it started off with plasma, then LCD, right? And anyway, so then it moved up to a Blu-ray, and now we're at the 4K. And what they're doing is they're starting to reissue much of the more popular films on 4K from Blu-ray, right? But with each upgrade, you end up losing some things, right? So there are some movies that you can't get on DVD, but you can find on VHS, right? And there's some movies that are on DVD, but they aren't on Blu-ray. There's some movies that are on Blu-ray. Well, a lot of movies that are on Blu-ray that aren't on 4K yet, right? But here's the thing with me. I don't want more than one copy of a movie as much as possible. Um, I don't want any more than one copy because, as you know, as a collector, eventually what happens is you start running out of space, and space on your shelves and in the space that you do your collecting in becomes limited, right? So you don't the least amount of space something can take up, the better, right? So if you can have, like, let's say 15 Alfred Hitchcock films, and it takes up this much space on your shelves, or you can collect this, all right, I'll show it to you here, which has all 15 movies that maybe you have on Blu-ray, right, or DVD or whatever, right? Um, and you can put it in a package that's that wide. Well, you just save like this much space on your shelves, right? It's so I just I can't justify having, let's say, a DVD, a Blu-ray, and a 4K of a movie on my shelf, or a VHS, DVD, Blu-ray, 4K, right? So you kind of have to choose, right? Now, what dilemma that I'm in is we're at a point in time right now where 4Ks they've been around for a few years, but they haven't really hit the popularity of Blu-rays. I mean, even DVDs are selling pretty good even still, right? So, but I think most people have gotten to the Blu-ray, like most collectors have gotten to Blu-ray, right? So they will collect DVD if they can't. I mean, some just don't, but like I will, and probably many others will pick up a DVD of a movie that they like if they can't find the Blu-ray yet, especially if you only buy used and you don't buy new, right? Um, so I came across an issue. I'm going, okay, so Blu-ray is really good when you watch it on the television. It's clear, it's nice. The jump from DVD to Blu-ray is quite significant. The jump from VHS to DVD was huge. The jump from DVD to Blu-ray was significant. You can see the difference. But the jump from Blu-ray to 4K, I mean, there is a difference there, but there's a difference in impact when you first watch it, but after you start watching it, the graininess and everything on a Blu-ray, like from from a DVD to a Blu-ray, you will notice the DVD all through the film, or even the VHS, that it's blurry, and sometimes you'll miss something and you go, okay, and then when you watch it on DVD, you know, you're missing things, right? But when you watch it on Blu-ray, what happens is, you know, after the first 10, 15 minutes, you just don't notice that you're watching something clear, right? So, because you're actually watching the movie, you're into the movie, right? So, so the difference between a Blu-ray and a 4K, I mean, the aficionados, the really, really hardcore collectors, maybe they, you know, the ones that will not deal with second best. They want to have the best, the best, the best, the best, the best, right? So, you know, you've known them. If they aren't you, you've had friends, you know, where you'll have your TV and your VCR and everything, and then you go over to your friend's house and he's got like a $4,000, you know, disc player and like surround sound speakers everywhere, and you know, and they spent like $10,000 on their system or whatever. You know, you get that with you know, people with music or with movies, right? So, but the jump from Blu-ray to 4K, there is a jump there, right? And you know, they are releasing now more and more things on 4K where they'll add the Blu-ray, like they did with Blu-ray when people were still collecting DVDs. You would get a Blu-ray, but it would also include a DVD in it, right? So you'd get a DVD and a Blu-ray in the package, right? So I always thought that was cool, because then I could keep the DVD and the Blu-ray and not have a DVD and a Blu-ray on my shelf. I'd just have the Blu-ray case, but it has the DVD in it, right? So I would do that purposely. I would actually, if I had a copy of a Blu-ray and I had a copy of a DVD, I would actually take the DVD out of the case and put it into the other case. Either put it into a you know, a sleeve, put it into a sleeve, or buy Blu-rays that have two shells to them or whatever, where you can put them both in. And then you just take the sleeve out of the old Blu-ray and put it into the new Blu-ray, right? So you're actually making a Blu-ray DVD combo when it originally that was just out on a Blu-ray, right? Because you've taken the DVD out of the DVD case and put it in, right? So that's what I was doing, right? But now that 4K is starting to become more mainstream, and you're seeing it in the secondary, because I rarely buy anything new. I will occasionally, if it's on sale, right, or if it's at a price range. You know, the last thing I bought was a Robert Rodriguez triple bill of three of his early films, El Mariachi and you know, Once Upon a Time in Mexico. Those early films that starred Antonio Banderas. Anyways, they came out with a Blu-ray package that has the three films in one Blu-ray. And I had one of them on Blu-ray and two of them on DVD. And so when I bought the Blu-ray with all three of them in one package, saves me space on my shelf, right? Plus it was only like, I think it was like $12 or something, right? So because of a, you know, Black Friday sale or whatever, right? So that's cool, right? So you save space, and then you upgrade from a DVD to a Blu-ray, right? But that is what I'm having a dilemma is, because whenever I find a Steelbook Blu-ray, I really like to get it. I like the Steelbooks. I like the box sets that, you know, Arrow puts out, you know, the specially limited edition box sets. I like those, you know, with the hard covers, right? But I really like the Steelbooks, right? I like it just with books, like books that I collected before I started collecting movies, gotten into more movies rather than books. I like, if I've seen a movie, right, just like if I've seen a book, read a book that I really, really liked, and I want to, like a memento of it, like a keepsake of it, what I'll do is I'll go search, let's say, for a nice leather-bound edition, or maybe a Folio Society cardboard slipcover, nice book edition of that book, so I can put it in as a keepsake in my library, right? So I don't mind spending a bit more for that, right? So over here I have probably about 150 nice editions of books that I really enjoyed reading, right? Um, I'm kind of doing the same thing with my movie collection. If I really, really enjoy a film, I really want to get it in a steelbook, right? And others, if it's in a DVD, I don't really care. I may watch it once every 4 or 5 years or something, but I still want a copy of it to watch it. But the ones that you really like, the core films that you really enjoy watching, right? And they don't have to be the greatest films in the world. They just kind of touched you in some way, right? All right. There's a bunch of films like that. I mean, if you refer back to some of my videos, I do like a top 130 list of all the greatest films that I think that have ever been made, that I've seen anyways. And, probably 25 or 30 of them are like hardcore movies that I watch all the time that maybe others won't think are like the greatest films of all time, but they still, they touch something in you, right? Well, one of those films for me, and for a lot of people actually, is The Big Lebowski. I don't know, the Coen Brothers film that stars John Goodman and Jeff Bridges, right, and Steve Buscemi, right? So um, it's quite a funny film, and it's a really enjoyable. Like, it's one of those films for me, like, let's say My Bodyguard or The Warriors, that I just don't mind watching over and over and over again. I always find something new in it, or it's just a laugh, right? So The Big Lebowski is that for me. So I wanted to get a really nice edition of The Big Lebowski, and what I found, the best that I found, was this nice limited edition steelbook, still new. All right, I found it new, um, of the film. All right, so it's a beautiful presentation of the film, The Big Lebowski, right? So previous to this, I had a nice edition of it in a digibook. There was a digibook of it, right? But then I upgraded to a steelbook. All right, so now that's quite awesome. But then what happened is I ended up finding this on the secondary market. All right, and this is where I come to the dilemma. Now I got to choose because I don't want both of them taking up space on my shelf. I just want one of them. So is the nice packaging of the film that makes it look nice on the shelf, and it's a Blu-ray, or do you want like the best version of the film? And it's my understanding that the HD cut on this film is really clear, and it's nice to watch. So this would probably, when you're watching the film, it's probably better to watch this one than it is to this one. But when this one's on the shelf, this is a really nice addition, right? It looks really nice on the shelf. Steelbooks look really nice on the shelf. I don't know why, especially if you have them all in a row. They look really, really nice and uniform, right? So once I found a really nice steelbook edition of a film that I really like, I knew that I could move on. I don't need to bother with this film anymore. I have it in what I want, right? Just like a leather-bound edition of a book that I want to collect because I really enjoyed reading it, right? But then they upgrade from this to this, all right? And this one even has the Blu-ray, right? So it has the Blu-ray, but it's just a regular, case, right? So it's a 4K case, but in the future, 4Ks are going to be like Blu-rays. They're a dime a dozen or whatever. But I suppose if you really think about it, that if they put it out in a nice steelbook Blu-ray, that eventually maybe they'll put it out in a nice 4K steelbook. I don't know. Are 4K steelbooks a thing? But maybe they will. Maybe because you have to do it special in order to put it in a steelbook, right? Because you're not using plastic, you're using metal, right? And they have to recoup the money for these things. So is there a market enough for a 4K, let's say, steelbook? There are 4K steelbooks, but I haven't seen them on the secondary market. You don't see them at all. I mean, you're starting to see 4Ks on the secondary market, but not very many. Like, I've probably bought maybe 8 4Ks in the last year that I found in the secondary market, right? So, anyway, so now I got to choose. So which would you choose? Would you choose the better presentation when you're watching the film, or would you choose something that looks nicer on the shelf and it's more of a keepsake, more of a collectible type of idea, and it has a Blu-ray, right? So, but it doesn't have a 4K, so you'd be watching, let's say, a less clear version of the film. Does it really matter? Personally, I'm going to keep this one and probably not this one. And the reason why I'm going to keep this one is because it's nicer. All right. Um, the packaging is nicer and everything looks nice. And it's not like it's an animated film or a, science fiction film. For those ones, especially animation, the clearer the animation, that you can see the animation, the much more enjoyable the film is, right? That's why when you were watching Disney films and then Pixar came along and put out like A Bug's Life, and you saw the difference in computer animation compared to the regular animation that Disney had, even though Disney's animation improved. Like if you watch, let's say, Snow White, and then you watch Aladdin, right? That time period, you can see the difference in the animation, right? But when you watch A Bug's Life and you watch any normal animated film, A Bug's Life with that computer-generated animation is like super clear. It's really, 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 quite of a leap, right? So if you can get it as clear as possible, like a 4K would look better than a Blu-ray, and you would notice the difference, right? So now upgrading some, let's say older films, let's say Akira, from 1988. When you look at that on a DVD and then you look at that on a Blu-ray, the improvement is there. But what the Blu-ray does is, because it's so much clearer than the DVD, you see the animation markings more. You understand what I mean? Like, you see it. I don't know how to explain it, but because it's so clear, it doesn't blend in as much. Do you know what I mean? The actual unfocusedness of let's say a DVD compared to a Blu-ray, you see less of the choppiness or whatever of the animation. See less of the actual drawing of it, right? So same thing with heavy metal. If you've watched heavy metal on DVD and then you watch it on Blu-ray, you see the movement. It's more choppy on Blu-ray than it is. It's the same choppiness, but because DVD is blurrier, you don't see it as much, right? So it is a bit distracting sometimes, and you also see that sometimes in space films. Let's say when you watch, let's say, Star Wars: A New Hope, the first one. I always mention this when I'm talking on video, that when you had it on a DVD and you watched it, it looked more real because you didn't see it as clear. Because you see, let's say, the Death Star and the scenes and everything super clear, you can tell that they're like, you can tell that, especially, let's say, when the X-Wing fighter goes down and starts shooting the surface of like a destroyer or whatever, and you see those white boxes and everything, it looks so fake when it's clearer. But when you watch it on a DVD, those kind of look, your imagination kind of kicks in with the blurriness, and you can imagine that that's more of a, more of the actual surface of a spaceship, right? So, but when you get it so clear, let's say in a Blu-ray or whatever, you can see that that's, it's not paper mache or anything, but you can tell it's like spray painted boxes or whatever, or do you understand? So sometimes the older films, when you get them to be super clear, you see the flaws in the, in the fakeness of it, right? So it would be like, like Ray Harryhausen, all the Sinbad films and that, where you have the Gargon or whatever in the water that's moving around. I mean, you already know it's like stop generated animation, right? Stop animation. But the clearer you make it, the more. It was already choppy with the movements, if you've ever seen those films, right? The movements of the claymation monsters or whatever they used to move them. You see the choppiness of their moving. They don't move smooth, right? But when you watched it on a VHS or whatever, it was blurry enough that you could imagine that monster was real. It was just doing a herky-jerky motion. But when you watch it, super clear, let's say on a Blu-ray or something, or even on a DVD, you notice that the actual monster isn't real either, right? You can see that it's made of whatever plasticine or whatever they're using. You can see that's not a real monster, right? And I bet you if you did it on a 4K, you would see it even more, and it would look even more fake, right? So it kind of does distract, but people want the clarity. But it's It's in the space movies and, you know, the action films, where you want the clearest, like a Transformers film. You would probably want to watch that on 4K because everything's so much clearer than, let's say, on a DVD or whatever, right? So you see the action more, right? The movement of the transformations of the robots and everything else, right? And it's recent enough that the jump in clarity doesn't distract you and make it seem like what you're watching is unreal, right? But anyways, my big dilemma is I need to either decide that when I'm collecting films, am I gonna, like, if this was a regular Blu-ray, I would just upgrade it to this, right? So, um, but because it's a Steelbook, and I have a lot of Steelbook Blu-rays, when the 4K does come out for those Steelbook Blu-ray films, am I gonna upgrade it to a 4K? And then I'll have to get rid of this one because I don't want both of them taking up space on my shelf. I have to decide which one. So it's kind of like I have to decide between clearer or nicer on the shelf, right? So, and I think I'm still kind of in the air, but I think the jump from the clarity on this, on a Blu-ray up to a 4K isn't all that significant of a jump, all right? Like your eyes don't notice the difference. I mean, they will, but the jump, let's say, from DVD to Blu-ray is much more significant, and the jump from VHS to DVD was way more significant, all right? And it seems like there's like a law of diminishing returns that is kind of starting to creep into the, like if they come out with 8Ks, will you be able to see the difference between a 4K and an 8K cut? Would you? Probably not. Like, I mean, I think you're reaching the ceiling when it comes to what your eyes are capable of viewing, right? So, and I don't notice the difference between this and this all that much. And if it's a drama or a comedy, it's not like an action or you know, a sci-fi film or whatever, or an animated film. Does it really? I mean, I would watch a film on DVD if it's a drama. You don't really need to see it so clear that it'll take away if you don't see it clear, like maybe a science fiction film will, right? So I think what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to stick with the Blu-ray Steelbooks until if I do upgrade it, it's got to be a Steelbook to upgrade to, not just a regular 4K. So I think that's what I'm going to do. What do you think? Do you agree with me? Leave it in the comments. Let me know. Do you think? No. You got to have the best, most clear film. You have to upgrade. You have to get this one and get rid of this one, because this one is just better watching, and that's what's important, is to watch the film in its best version that you can, right? Or does packaging matter, right? Does packaging matter? So if I'm going to upgrade to a 4K, I mean, I'm coming to the conclusion, having this talk, that I probably don't care about the upgraded clarity of a 4K over a Blu-ray, because the difference isn't all that much, and I enjoy the look of a Steelbook on my shelf, right? So I think maybe unless they start producing more 4K Steelbooks that you can upgrade from a Blu-ray Steelbook to a 4K Steelbook, I think I'm going to keep my Steelbooks is what I think I'm going to do. But if somebody goes in this direction instead, I wouldn't say you're doing something wrong, right? I wouldn't do that at all, right? So, especially, I can't tell the difference really between this and this presently anyways, because the TVs that I have, I don't have any 4K TVs. Maybe if I had a 4K TV and then I watch my 4K film and I go, wow, that is just such a good presentation, that maybe I will choose that over that. But at present, I'm not going to start replacing my TVs for 4K TVs. The TVs work fine. They're great. It'll just be a waste, right? So anyways, eventually the next TV, once one of my older TVs breaks or isn't working as well, then the next TV will, by that time 4K TVs will be probably standard, right? So, all right, so that's all I had to say. What would you choose? Would you choose to keep a Blu-ray Steelbook on your shelf, or would you upgrade it to a 4K regular cased movie? Which would you prefer? I do like, when it comes to the movie itself, packaging doesn't matter, right? But you live in a physical world, and packaging and beauty is like something that is like aesthetically pleasing. This is much more aesthetically pleasing to look at than this is. So, I mean, you got to give it to, like beauty is something, right? And so anyway, so I look forward to reading your comments. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, this is what we do. We talk about physical media all the time. It doesn't necessarily always have to do with movies. Sometimes it's books, sometimes it's music, sometimes it's collecting sports cards, sometimes it's, it's all over the place, but mainly it's movies. So you have a great day, and think about subscribing. Leave me a thumbs up if you like the video, and I'll talk to you in my next video. All right, and you have a great day. Bye for now.